Most people pull a yellowing plant out of the ground about 3 weeks too early. The plant isn't dead. It isn't dying. It's hungry. And 9 times out of 10, the exact thing it needs is already sitting somewhere in your house. In your kitchen, under your sink, in your compost bin, or in a place I'll get to at the end of this video that's going to make some of you uncomfortable. Here's what the gardening industry doesn't put on the front of the bag. The global fertilizer market is worth over $200 billion. That number exists because most gardeners have been trained, quietly, consistently over decades, to believe that healthy plants require a product with a label and a price tag. That the chemistry of good soil is too complicated for ordinary people to manage without professional help packaged in a plastic container. That is not true. And the proof has been sitting in agricultural records, university research databases, and traditional farming communities for centuries. In this video, we're going through 10 natural fertilizers that work. Not because they're trendy or organic brand certified, but because the science is unambiguous and the history is long. Some of them come from your kitchen. One comes from a dairy operation. One has been used since before written agricultural records existed. And the last one on this list comes from the bathroom. I'll tell you right now so you can decide if you're staying. The human body produces one of the most nitrogen-rich fertilizing substances on Earth, and researchers at multiple institutions have demonstrated that it outperforms synthetic alternatives under controlled conditions. We'll get there. First, let's start with something that's been in the ground since before your grandparents were born. Quick pause. This channel is built on the information that should have been obvious but somehow never was. In gardening, in history, in the things we consume every day. If that's your kind of content, subscribe. We're pushing toward 1,000 subscribers before the month ends, and every person who joins makes the next video possible. Where are you watching from, and which of these have you actually tried? Drop it below. I read everything. Number 1, the ancient secret. Wood ash. Before we name it, consider where it comes from. It is what's left after something has completely burned. It is the residue of destruction, gray, powdery, seemingly useless. For most of human history, people swept it out of the fireplace and threw it away, or they did something else with it that turned out to be one of the most effective agricultural practices ever documented. Wood ash has been used as a soil amendment for at least 10,000 years. Archaeological evidence from early agricultural settlements in the Fertile Crescent shows deliberate incorporation of ash into cultivated soil. Medieval European farmers spread it across fields every winter. The practice existed independently across cultures that had no contact with each other. In Japan, in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica, in West Africa, which is what happens when something actually works. The chemistry explains why. Wood ash is approximately 5 to 7% potassium by weight, along with meaningful concentrations of calcium and phosphorus. It is also strongly alkaline, with a pH typically between 9 and 11, which makes it extraordinarily effective at correcting acidic soils. The condition that quietly throttles root development in a significant percentage of home gardens without gardeners ever identifying it as the problem. In 2003, researchers at Cornell University's Department of Horticulture published findings showing that wood ash application to acidic soils increased vegetable yields by up to 32% compared to untreated control plots. The mechanism is straightforward. Many essential nutrients become chemically unavailable to plants in highly acidic conditions, and the ash raises the pH into the range where uptake becomes possible again. The recipe is simple. 1 cup of wood ash per square foot of garden bed, worked lightly into the top 2 inches of soil. Water it in. Repeat once per growing season. The mistake people make, using ash from treated or painted wood. Only clean hardwood ash. Anything burned with chemical coatings introduces compounds that damage soil biology rather than supporting it. If ash works by raising what's too low, the next one works by adding what was never there. And it's been sitting in your kitchen since this morning. Number 2, the household miracle, coffee grounds. You probably walked past it this morning without thinking twice. It was in your coffee filter, or your French press, or the capsule you pulled out of the machine and dropped directly into the trash. Dark, slightly damp, smelling of the morning, and containing a nutrient profile that has been validated by researchers on 3 continents as a legitimate, high-performance soil amendment. Used coffee grounds contain approximately 2% nitrogen by dry weight, along with measurable quantities of potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, and copper. They also contain a carbon-to-nitrogen ratio that makes them genuinely valuable to the microbial communities that drive healthy soil biology. The organisms that break down organic matter, suppress certain pathogens, and make nutrients available to plant roots in forms they can actually absorb. The history here is less ancient than wood ash, but more global than you might expect. Traditional coffee-growing communities in Ethiopia and Yemen have composted spent grounds into agricultural soil for centuries. In Japan, a 2013 study conducted at Osaka Prefecture University demonstrated that incorporating coffee grounds into potting mix increased the biomass of beneficial soil bacteria by up to 40% compared to control samples, with corresponding improvements in plant growth rates across multiple tested species. More significantly, research published by the journal Bioresource Technology in 2019 found that coffee ground amendment suppressed the growth of several common fungal pathogens, including Fusarium, one of the primary causes of damping off disease in seedlings. The practical application: collect used grounds and apply them as a thin top dressing, no more than half an inch deep, around the base of plants. Alternatively, steep 2 cups of grounds in 5 gallons of water for 24 hours and apply as a liquid feed. The mistake: applying grounds too thickly. A layer deeper than half an inch compacts into a water-repellent mat that does the opposite of what you intend. Thin and distributed, not piled. That one was from your kitchen counter. The next one is from a crisis. And it's what you reach for when a plant is already in serious trouble. Number 3. The emergency rescue: aspirin solution. This one doesn't come from a farm or a kitchen garden. It comes from a medicine cabinet. And the reason it works has nothing to do with pain relief, and everything to do with a discovery that fundamentally changed how plant biologists understand disease resistance. In 1990, a research team led by Daniel Klessig at the Waxman Institute of Microbiology published findings in the journal Science demonstrating that salicylic acid, the active compound in aspirin, functions as a primary signaling molecule in plant immune response. When a plant is under stress from disease, insect damage, or environmental shock, it produces salicylic acid internally to activate what researchers now call systemic acquired resistance, a whole plant immune activation that prepares undamaged tissue to resist further attack. The practical implication is significant. Introducing salicylic acid externally, through foliar spray or soil drench, can trigger this immune response in plants that have not yet been damaged, effectively vaccinating them against stress before it arrives. A 2007 study from the University of Rhode Island found that aspirin-treated tomato plants showed a 34% reduction in disease incidence compared to untreated controls. The recipe: 1 regular uncoated aspirin tablet, 325 milligrams, dissolved in 1 gallon of water. Apply as a foliar spray in the early morning, once every 3 weeks during the growing season. 2 critical mistakes. First, use only uncoated aspirin. Enteric-coated tablets don't dissolve properly, and the coating itself can damage leaf tissue. Second, do not increase the concentration. More is not more here. Higher concentrations of salicylic acid actually inhibit plant growth. 1 tablet per gallon. No more. That one rescues a plant already struggling. The next one feeds a plant that's been quietly starving for months. And it comes from something most people pour directly down the drain. Number 4. The forgotten byproduct: cooking water. Every time you boil pasta, potatoes, eggs, or vegetables, something happens that almost no home gardener thinks about. The water changes. It absorbs. Starches leach into it from pasta and potatoes. Calcium and minerals dissolve into it from eggs. Vitamins, trace minerals, and soluble compounds transfer into it from every vegetable that passes through it. By the time you drain that pot, the water you're about to pour down the sink is a legitimate, measurable source of plant-available nutrients. This practice has documented roots in traditional European kitchen gardening, where households routinely saved cooking water, called pot liquor in older English agricultural texts, specifically for application to kitchen gardens. Records from monastic agricultural communities in France and Germany, dating to the 12th and 13th centuries, describe the practice explicitly. This was not sentiment. It was resource management based on observed results. The modern chemistry confirms what those medieval gardeners understood empirically. A 2011 analysis published by researchers at the University of Hawaii found that water used to boil vegetables contained measurable concentrations of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, the three primary macronutrients in commercial fertilizer, along with calcium, magnesium, and several micronutrients. Pasta water specifically was found to contain elevated levels of starch, which supports beneficial soil microbial activity in ways that simple nutrient supplementation does not. The practical application is genuinely simple. Let the cooking water cool to room temperature. Hot water applied directly to soil damages beneficial organisms, and pour it directly at the base of plants. Collect it across multiple meals and apply 2 to 3 times per week during active growth periods. The single mistake that negates everything: salted cooking water. Salt accumulates in soil and damages root function at relatively low concentrations. If you salt your pasta water, which most recipes require, that water goes down the drain. Unsalted cooking water only. Vegetable steaming water is the most nutrient-dense version, because nutrients transfer into steam condensate at high concentrations without the dilution that full submersion produces. If you steam rather than boil, collect that water specifically. That one was hiding in your kitchen every single day. The next one is the method the industry least wants you to know about, and I warned you at the beginning where it comes from. Number 5, the ultimate taboo: human urine. Here it is. I told you at the beginning that one of these methods comes from the bathroom, and I told you the science was going to be stronger than you expected. Both of those things are true, and if you've made it this far, you deserve the full picture. Human urine is approximately 95% water. The remaining 5% contains, primarily, urea, a nitrogen compound that the liver produces as a byproduct of protein metabolism. It also contains potassium, phosphorus, and a range of trace minerals. The nutrient concentration varies based on diet and hydration, but average human urine contains roughly 10 grams of nitrogen per liter, a concentration that, in synthetic fertilizer terms, represents significant nutritional value. This is not fringe knowledge. It is established agricultural science, with a research history spanning decades and institutional endorsement from some of the most credible research organizations in the world. In 2009, the UN Environment Programme published a comprehensive report titled Drivers and Challenges for Wastewater Reuse that explicitly identified human urine as an underutilized agricultural resource, noting its potential to reduce synthetic fertilizer dependency in developing agricultural systems. If you want more of it, subscribe. We're working toward 1,000. We're not there yet, and every person who joins makes the next one happen. What are you going to try first? Tell me below.